Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And today I'm joined by Alex. Alex, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me here, and appreciate the conversation. So my name is Alex Zeltcer. I'm currently CEO and one of the founders at nSure.ai. I've been in the fraud prevention industry for a while, actually from a previous company as well. Our previous company was a marketplace for gift cards, where we learned how difficult it is to sell basically cash online, and found ourselves in need of finding the right tools to cope with payment fraud. I've been with many different companies before that, both as CEO and in other roles, going back to the, I would say, mid-90s. So have been in the industry for a while now.
Excellent. Now, tell me a little bit more about the trends in payment fraud that you've been seeing over the last years. What has changed? What has become more prevalent? What has become less prevalent over time? What are the biggest trends?
Sure. So first of all, we deal primarily with verticals where the delivery of the value transfer is immediate, right? So it's instantaneous delivery. We deal primarily with digital as a result of that, with digital either goods or services. So they don't travel on a truck; they travel in beats, right? They arrive as an email or a text message. And I'm pointing that out specifically because when that happens, it creates a very attractive scenario from a fraudster perspective. When you think about payment fraud, and if we simplify the world a little bit, we can imagine that there are two types of fraudsters. One that is, that is out there to get his hands on a free flight to New York tonight, and the other that is actually doing it as a business, right? There are businesses that are dealing with payment fraud, and what we found is that, and originally at our company, it's at the gift card marketplace, what we found is that these type of products are very appealing to fraudsters because fraudsters do this as a business, because of that immediate and instantaneous delivery and the ability to resell. So if you think about it from a fraud perspective, from a fraudster perspective, their process is fairly simple. They go on the dark net, they buy a list of stolen financial instruments. There could be a list of stolen credit cards or PayPal accounts. And now that they've acquired these, they need to turn them into more cash. That's their return on investment. And what they need to do then is buy things and resell them because they have a payment instrument. Now imagine the difference between buying and reselling 1,000 iPhones or 1,000, Nike sneakers, and buying and reselling 1,000 virtual swords for a game on Xbox. Not exactly the same, operation that's required.
Sure.
As a result of that, what you see fraudsters that are investing heavily in attacking these types of verticals, right? It's gaming, it's prepaid devices, whether these are gift cards or prepaid debit cards, ticketing and travel, crypto exchanges, NFT marketplaces. These are the types of industries that we're dealing with. And on these specifically, what we've seen, I would say probably in the last year and a half or so, is the emergence of social engineering or victim-assisted fraud in a scalable fashion. We used to see that to a certain degree, because when we're looking at the fraud patterns we're seeing in our industries, it's always about scalable fraud. It's always about machines that are finding ways to attack these, right? It's not a person with a hoodie sitting in a coffee shop and to buy a ticket. It's really about creating, machines that are attacking the sites. And it's not until recently that we saw that the technology was there to conduct social engineering by machines. Social engineering, the term is coming from, people are doing it, right?
Sure.
It's no longer people doing that. It's really machines that are conducting social engineering. We have real evidence of that. And we're seeing more and more usage of even generative AI in that, which is insane. To be expected, but still insane.
Yes. So let's talk a little bit more about this use of generative AI for the purpose of fraud. Now, there are different types of generative AI models out there. There are some that are provided closed source AI models like ChatGPT from OpenAI or Bard from Google or Claude from Anthropic. And these are all well-known companies, labs that are providing this closed models. But then there are also open source models. So for example, Meta released some open source models. It's Llama models and Palm models. And there are other companies that are releasing open source models. So which tools specifically are used by fraudsters in the form of generative AI? Is it the closed models, which companies might have more control and liability over? Or is it more of the open models that companies just release into the ether and then they can be hacked and abused for whatever purpose by fraudsters?
Yeah, so to be honest, I don't think that we have the ability at this point on a wide scale to say, this is more of the closed, of the existing, tools that can be used, or more of the open source of the open tools. I don't think we have enough data to generate to create a real opinion about that yet. But I think that what we're seeing is so we're not seeing generative AI creating the bots, right? Or the machines themselves. What we're seeing is generative AI being used in order to mimic human behavior behind the scenes.
The social engineering.
Exactly, the texting that you get, and pointing you in different locations on websites, and so we're seeing that type of usage. Some of it is probably API driven already, but we won't be able to identify that remotely. So I don't think that we have the ability to say, yes, people are using now a specific tool using generative AI that creates the text, as part of the machine, etc. Or if they're actually using that, creating these different texts and then using that to generate the different messages. I don't think we have the tools at this point to pinpoint what exactly and how exactly this is being used, because it's all, as you can understand, reverse engineering on our part, obviously. But we are seeing that. We're seeing that the tools are being used to find ways to be more persuasive, right? Because 5 years ago, if you created a machine that would chat with you on your WhatsApp and try to get you to buy a gift card and send over the number, you would identify that on the third text message, you would know. Now doing that is not that easy from what we've seen. Not that easy. So that's what we're seeing, telling you whether these are being used real time or whether these are being used behind the scenes. I don't know that we have the ability at this point yet to pinpoint.
Interesting. Yeah. And so when we're thinking about the use of generative AI tools, is this something that who are people who are most vulnerable to this? I've been seeing various reports that some reports say, well, it's older people who are less experienced with these tools, digital tools, who are more vulnerable. Other reports say that maybe Generation Z is more vulnerable because they are, even though they grew up in a native digital environment, they just interact so much with digital tools that they might trust them too much. So tell me a little bit more about who is most likely to be vulnerable to social engineering fraudsters.
So it's an interesting question, and I'll give you another perspective, I think.
Yes, please.
And I'm not sure that I can answer the question directly, but the domains we're seeing social engineering most prevalent, and some would call it victim-assisted fraud, right? There are different terminologies here, is on prepaid debit cards on one hand, and on cryptocurrency on the other. And if you think about it, the reason for that is that these are probably the most fraudster attractive products that you could imagine, right? Because this is definitely more, more attractive to a fraudster than a virtual sword. Virtual sword is more attractive than a pair of shoes. But a prepaid debit card by Visa or a Bitcoin is more attractive than a virtual sword. And I think that that's why we're seeing these types of patterns emerge specifically. Now, why am I giving you these two examples, which is where we're seeing most of the social engineering? That's because on gift cards, it's exactly the population you mentioned by saying, it's more of the elderly people. It's more of the people that, when you look, you don't see necessarily a very large digital footprint. If you look at their Facebook accounts, and we scrape all the data we can, obviously, right? So that's where you would find these type of people that are being taken advantage of. On the crypto side, it's definitely not them, right? You could see some elderly people that are in the crypto industry. Normally, these are not the people you want to take advantage of. So what you would see on the crypto side is more of this Gen Z that are saying, oh, yes, and you see different scams, right? You see different types of scams that are appearing in these different industries. And that's where you would see really these Gen Z people that are being manipulated into doing something by using the tools that they're using. TikTok is an extreme case, but people are using everything, right? TikTok is a bit of an extreme case, but they're using everything. They're using YouTube, they're using WhatsApp, they're using Facebook, they're using Pinterest. Everything is being used, to find ways to attract people to do something that, in hindsight, is obviously stupid. They still go through and do it. So that's the perspective I wanted to share. So we see both, but not in the same exact. There are distinct, I would say, groups that are more susceptible in certain verticals and others that are susceptible in others.
That's very helpful. Now, as we move toward finishing up, I'm curious what you think businesses can do to protect their employees, their leaders, their staff from being susceptible to fraud, including what you're doing to help them, but more broadly, what businesses are doing, what can they do to address these types of problems?
So I think education is very important, right? I can tell you we are a SOC 2 compliant company, like I think probably all at least payment fraud or at least cyber companies out there. And a very important part of SOC 2 compliance is the education, right? So I think education is always key. And I think that what we're doing is really helpful primarily for the merchants we protect. We don't protect the individuals that are being scammed, right? That's not where we come into the picture. So my view on this is, one, I think that what we're doing and what others like us are doing by putting up higher barriers to entry for the fraudsters is making their lives harder. And as a result of that is reducing the overall fraud in the world. So I think what we're doing and others like us are doing is a good step forward in the grand scheme of things. And I'll explain a little bit about how we help our clients and our merchants. But I think that if you look at what can companies do to help protect their own employees or their clients from that, I can tell you that we're doing lots of drills in our company for phishing, and whoever gets fooled by a phishing message and wears a hat for a day or two. So we have examples of that. So I think that the educational part, in my opinion, is key, especially in the social engineering element, because at the end of the day, it's really about you being a little bit more, let's say, how would you say that? How would I say that? Be a bit more scrutinizing in what you do, right? Don't just, because if you just follow anything you see and you get I can tell you that my people got emails from me, like as if they are coming from me, urging them to go and buy an Amazon gift card because I'm at a meeting and I really need to give them something, and please buy an Amazon gift card and send it to me. And for us, it's easy because that's what we are dealing with. There's no one in our company that's going to do that. At least I hope so. But in other companies, it's fairly easy to fall down that trap. So I think that's the main thing. The way we help our merchants, I think, to answer the other part of your question, is we're trying to build our tools in a way that they sift through the different buyers, right? The different shoppers, the different consumers that come on site. And the main thing that we're trying to do is not find out or control the fraud per se, but really we're trying to approve more. We're trying to help our merchants approve more. And I think that the fraud prevention industry has been about controlling fraud for way too long. And especially in our industries, if you look at the approval rates in companies that are dealing with these type of digital assets, like the ones that I've described, you would see approval rates that are in the range of 70-75%. And that's terrible, because it means that you're declining 25% of your population. And from everything we've done, from our own data, 87% of these declines are false positives. False positives. So if only 10% roughly of the 20%, 25% you decline are real fraudsters, you're actually declining somewhere between 18 and 23% of the population for no reason, only because 2% are fraud. That's the reality of it. And that's the thing we're trying to change. And I think that by making that change and helping our clients achieve these goals of approving more and being a lot more critical on finding better the fraudsters, we're helping the overall industry by doing that.
Well, that's very helpful. Thank you, Alex. This was very helpful and illuminating. I appreciate you sharing your expertise.
Sure, it's my pleasure, and thank you, for the insightful questions.
Excellent. And thank you to the audience for checking out another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to subscribe to the show wherever you checked it out and leave a review. It helps others discover the show and it helps us improve the show. All right, everyone. I'll see you in the next episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. In the meantime, the wisest and most profitable decisions to you, my friends.